Hey, it's Jay, and I'm here today with a book review, and I'm going to be reviewing The Book Jumper by Metchild Glaser. I apologize for pronouncing the name wrong because I pronounce German names wrong every single time, and I have for this book. So this will be a spoiler-free review, and this book was the cause of my reading slump. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and it literally caused my book slump that lasted almost 2 months. Which is really disappointing because the cover is so good and the idea was good, it's just the execution was so bad. So let me first give a brief description of the plot of this book. Amy Lennox and her mom are leaving Ireland or Scotland, I forget which, and they are going to visit Amy's grandmother. While they're there, Amy learns that her family, along with another family on the island which she lives, has always had the power to jump into books and interact with the characters. It's their duty to protect the plots and the characters and make sure that no outside forces interfere with the plot, or else it will affect all the copies of the books in the world. Amy starts her training while she's introduced to the literary world in a way she never imagined possible. In a way she never imagined possible, she and another character named Will have to find out how a character from the story Will is protecting has ended up dead, and why several key aspects or ideas of other stories have gone missing. So that sounds like a very interesting plot to me. It's like YA magical realism or whatever, and it sounds really interesting. The idea of being able to jump into books and interact with the plot and characters, like who wouldn't want to do that? And like the book started off fine enough. It begins with Amy and her mom trudging through the rain as they get off a boat and arrive to her great-grandmother's house. Amy and her mom left their home for a while to kind of get away from a bullying incident that had happened at Amy's school. And it set the tone and mood to be really dark, and I'm always here for that. And the main mystery was interesting. Her friend and later lover, Will. Will is sworn to protect one of the Sherlock Holmes books. They never specified which one, I believe. And so he's sworn to protect the plot and the characters. And the thing is, though, that Sherlock from that book has always been like his best friend for most of his life, and Sherlock has come out of the story multiple times, and he is out of the story when he goes missing. About the time that Amy arrives on the island, Holmes has gone missing, and Will is searching for him. He's in the process of searching for him when Amy arrives. Shortly after that, key ideas from various other stories of other works of fiction start disappearing, like the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, the idea of summer in A Midsummer Night's Dream. The reason I gave this book 2 stars is largely due to its execution. The book was originally written in German, and so while I understand that the translation might not be perfect, it's really hard to tell whether or not the translation was bad or if the book and story themselves were terrible. It wasn't entirely clear. The characters are very dull and one-dimensional, and the relationships between some of the characters, such as between Amy and her mom, they're sometimes hard to believe. And there were several plot points that seemed underdeveloped and like they were afterthought. There weren't really clues for several big events that happened and that were vital to the plot. The ending was unsatisfying in more way than one, and the book to me read like a second draft that was still in need of further development. I can't really go into specifics for a lot of these, or else they'll give away spoilers if you do decide to read this. But one of the biggest problems I had with this book was with a scene about 70% of the way through, in which Amy's mom tells her the secret of Amy's lineage, I guess, and how it could affect how Amy jumps in and out of the books and how she can interact with plot and character. But the secret that her mom told her felt very, very much like an afterthought, and it honestly made me laugh out loud because of how ridiculous it was. Like, there was no hint, there was no foreshadowing beforehand to suggest that her lineage was what her mom told her that it was. And there were several characters who Amy thought were the antagonists, and like I could see how some of them could make sense. The real culprit had a really sorry excuse. The real culprit had a really sorry excuse for motivation. There's also the matter of the quick development of the relationship between Amy and Will. While it wasn't 100% insta-love, there wasn't really a good reason for them to be together other than Will was nice to Amy and she had just gone through an emotionally traumatizing ordeal back home, and that Amy was the first girl around his age that Will had seen in a while that wasn't related to him on the island. The story, after the mystery is set up, the story takes place over a few weeks, and toward the end of the book, several things happen via the true antagonist, which made Amy and Will's relationship be in peril. After the antagonist is dealt with, one of the characters that is important to Amy is almost killed, but then is brought back to life, except they're only able to live in the book world. How that works is that Amy then has to make a decision about whether or not she should stay in the book world with that character that is important to her, or she should go back and forth between realities, or simply let the character live their best life that they can and be ageless and she move on. And Amy, for me, throughout the whole thing, Amy was so annoying, and that instant when she has to decide what to do about the character that's important to her being stuck in the book world, she was so annoying. Basically, don't read this book. It's not well written. And while the idea is intriguing, the execution and characters were very painful to read. Okay, this is the spoiler section. So if you do want to read this, click away until some icon up here disappears. I'm not sure how I'll do this. So as I was mentioning earlier, about 70% of the way through this book, Amy's mom is talking to her about her lineage, and soon before that, she discovered that there is this character from a book that was burned during a fight between the two clans on the island, the two families, where a few characters had escaped, and one of them and her mom had hooked up, and Amy was born. So therefore, she was half fictional character, and she has certain powers that the other humans that can jump into books don't. There was no hint to that beforehand, and I just found that stinking hilarious, and it was like it felt so much like an afterthought. Okay. So the true antagonist of the story is this princess from the book that got burned with the battle between two clans or whatever, and she was so mad at the families that she kind of hibernated for a couple hundred years because of magic or whatever. I forgot the explanation, doesn't really matter. And then she came out of hibernation, and she decided to try and create a new story, but in order to do that, she had to take out the main ideas of 9 different works of literature, and she was the puppet master because she was the puppet master behind this. In order to do that, she had to control someone, and she chose to control Will, and so he was doing her dirty work, and it's just it's so bad. There's this section, almost to the very end, where the princess is trying to control Amy and Will at the same time. I'm going to read you an excerpt. So in this scene, Will, being controlled by the princess, is currently trying to basically kill Amy. I ran. White-hot rage coursed in my veins. How could that devil child have done this to Will? With one hand, I clutched the glass sphere, and with the other, I lunged at the princess, trying to knock her off the wall into the well. I missed, but that didn't stop me trying a second time. "Help me, my knight! You must protect me!" she shrieked, dodging another of my blows by jumping off the well into the cobbles of castle courtyard. As she ran, she rummaged in the pocket of her gown for other ideas. She was probably planning to send the monster after me again, or the evil from Wuthering Heights. But as she fought to keep hold of the violently struggling rabbit and outrun me at the same time, she was unable to find the idea she was looking for. "This is my story!" yelled the princess as I chased her up a spiral staircase to the top of one of the towers. "Everybody here does what I want. Stop chasing me, Amy. Stop it right now." And for a moment, I found myself ensnared by her words. I tasted her poison on my tongue, felt it trickle into my mind, but it was over as quickly as it had begun. "You have no power over me," I shouted. "I am not your knight." We had reached the top of the tower by now, and the princess cowered against the silver battlements. I launched myself at her, wanting to claw her face, to grab a hold of her, and at the last moment she rolled around so that I could catch the hem, so I only caught the hem of her dress. As I yanked at it, the ancient fraying fabric gave way and ripped. Then there was a clinking sound as the shimmering ideas dropped to the floor. A crack appeared in the glass sphere containing the cyclone from Wizard of Oz, but miraculously it didn't break. It rolled along with the other ideas, out of the princess's reach. "So," I said quietly. The princess stared at me. Suddenly she seemed genuinely afraid of me. "My knight!" she screamed. "Kill her! Hurry up and kill her!" "With pleasure," replied Will, in the mechanical voice that told me he wasn't Will at all anymore. He'd followed us up the stairs and was now crossing the circular floor of the tower roof. He was still clutching the knight's dagger. He came toward us, faster now, more determined. I jumped aside, but it was too late. He'd already grabbed hold of me, tugging roughly at my hair, pulling me away from the princess. Then I felt the blade at my throat, cool and sharp. Will's breath came in short gasps beside my ear. I wanted to look at him, but I couldn't turn my head. "Will," I whispered. "Will, come back to me. It's me, Amy. This is not a nightmare. It's the princess's curse." The pressure of the metal on my neck grew stronger. "Will, don't do this. I know you don't want to do this." That's so stereotypical. That's so cliche. Okay, no more spoilers. It's original. Like, the idea is so original, but the writing and the way it's written, like, executed. Okay, so my camera died again, and I had to charge it for a moment. But what I was saying was that basically I don't read this book and it'd be a waste of time and it will be painful in a funny way. So if you want a good laugh, then read it, but it's not worth the time. There are much better books that you can read. So if you want more videos on bookish, writerly activism, musical kind of content, and sometimes random videos, then hit subscribe, click on my face down below. To see my last video, click over there, and to see more book reviews in the playlist, click over in that yonder corner. Down below in the description are the links to my social medias, and I will see you in another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.